Crafty Tribe, it's Anne here with your November project. I am so excited about this box. I can't even begin to tell you how much fun embossing is, and it's really, really easy to do. Couple things I want to go over first are heroes of this month's box, which is the Versamarker by Ranger. This is our watermark pen, or they're known as embossing pens as well. This one is double tipped, so you do have a brush tip. See that? And you also have a fine tip. Now, if you're going to be embossing handwriting, a couple things. If you don't have the greatest handwriting in the world, like me, you could either A, have somebody else do it for you quickly. They'll have to be with you the whole time you're doing the craft. You can trace some handwriting if you hold the card up to a window, unfold it, and then of course put your preferred writing in the back and then hold it up to a window and trace it on. With those Versamark pens, you do have to write fast because you don't want it to dry, and you'll see why in a second. A couple other products that I want to point out in this box are our Whispers Embossing Powders. I gave everybody a gold and silver because the holidays are coming, and, well, it just works now, doesn't it? So these are the standard embossing powders. You can purchase them in a finer grain, and those would be for closer details, and I'll get into that more in a minute too. So if you look here, you see it's a powder, and what it actually is plastic ground up very, very fine. You can do this on ceramic mugs, you can do this on glass, you could do this on paper like we're going to do. All kinds of things. You can Google a ton of ideas. The other product that I want to make sure that I point out is the Derice Heat Gun or embossing tool. Now, when I say heat gun, I don't mean like your typical heat gun that you get at Ace Hardware. I also have one of those. The reason being is that heat gun, the heat guns from the hardware stores, are actually a higher temperature than the Derice embossing tool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the fine end here, as I'm simply going to draw a star fast. I'm going to use some of the gold powder. Typically, when you're done writing with that watermark pen, you just pile the embossing powder on top. And then you will need to shake it off. If you shake or tap too hard, you'll have bald spots, and you won't see the embossing in those spots. I have this piece of paper under here because you will want to reuse your powder. With this example, I'm going to make two mistakes. See the specks of powder? You need to get rid of those. There are a couple things that you can do, but for the sake of showing the mistakes, we're going to do a terrible job at it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to overdo this one so that you can see what happens, because this is what I did when I first started embossing. So I have my tool plugged in. There's a switch on the side. You just turn it on. And you go over. I'm going to show you. You'll start to see those gradually heat up, and you'll start seeing shininess. Okay, so let this be a lesson. See the darker spots here? Those are good. Those are raised. Those are embossed. Do you see the dull areas? It just looks like I could have done that with marker, right? So basically, let me try to get that closer for you. So basically, what happened there is that I did it too much. I overheated it and it just sunk into the paper. Very easy to do if you overheat it. So another thing is that I didn't get rid of the static or brush any of the granules away, so you can see some of the specks that got into the paper. If you don't mind that, great. But if you do get a lot, it's going to be a problem for your design. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this again with a dryer sheet to remove static. I didn't want to send you dryer sheets from my laundry. Believe me, I thought about it, but I thought maybe some people would think that was disgusting. This is a good opportunity for you guys to get some laundry done. So basically, you just rub it all over the card first before you write on it. I've got my piece of paper so that I could save my embossing powder. And I'm going to go ahead and do this the right way. Again, draw or write out your design quickly, of course. Pour some powder over it. Pour the powder off. Don't hit it too hard because you don't want to lose any around the edges here. Take your excess powder, pour it back, set that aside. Brush some of this away. Try not to hit your design. If you do mess up, what you can do, you can actually go ahead and just take all that off and start over. Not a big deal. Okay, so we're ready to emboss this heart. We're not going to overdo it. This is the right way to do it, guys. Heat up around your paper first, quickly. This prevents the card from getting warped. And then start on one edge of your design, and as soon as you start seeing things start to melt and the graininess going away, you're done. That's it. Now you see the difference. I'm going to see if I can hold this up in a light so you guys can see. There you go. So now you see the difference, right? Let me show you that other side, where it just looked like I did some marker in some spots. Blech. Okay, so there's our cute little heart. Look at that. Awesome, right? Imagine that on a coffee mug. That would be so cute. So, those are your embossing basics. This is one of those projects, again, that allows freedom of expression, and you can make whatever card you want with the supplies that we've provided you. And also, whatever you've had laying around the house in a drawer that you didn't think you'd know what to do with in the future. So, we're going to do another type of embossing since this kit is aimed around embossing. And I'm betting that some of you might just pick this up as a full-time thing because this stuff is really cool. So, another type of embossing, and then something else that we've provided you, is this embossing folder by Derice. You can see that it has a deer and some birch trees. I'm going to show you my example here. This is what it does to paper. Look how beautiful that is. You can leave it plain or spice it up with some of the supplies we've given you. Isn't that awesome? You normally put your paper underneath it because you want it to go on the top here. I'm going to show you guys how I have this. That's the card open. And I folded the card over this. See that? So that the front of the card is here. And then when I put the folder down, I've got the card there. Now, a lot of people online, if you're looking for these folders, they're going to say it has to work with this machine or that machine. And yes, while that doesn't make it easier, we're not running 50 cards through it. So here is what I did. Grab your favorite can of soup or veggies. In my case, I'm using green beans. I like green beans. And this is how I do this. I take the edge of the can, and you will hear cracking. And I just apply a lot of pressure I tried rolling the can, you guys, and it did not work. So I apply a lot of pressure and try to get every single area of this folder. You can lift the folder up to check because let me tell you, the antlers and the branches are a little bit harder to do. You can lift up the folder to check how your design is looking, but if you do that, be extremely careful that you don't move the card. Especially these corners here. So I am just going to check without moving the card. So here's how you do that before you get all crazy and rambunctious like I am. Grab the top part of the folder, use your finger to lift it up. Take a look at the design on the card. If you're satisfied with that, great, you're done. If you are not, do some more. I did see some branches up in this area that I didn't get very well, so I'm just going to go over this one more time quickly. I think I got my deer's feet. Yeah, I did. All right, so look at that. So you could leave this as is, or throw some embossing powder on it in certain areas, or use a marker to color in some trees, or use some of that patterned paper to either pattern the shape of the deer or just fill in these little notches on the trees. I will make one of these later doing something other than just the folder embossing, just to show you guys the different things that we can do. So that's the other kind of embossing. Another thing that I got, it kind of goes hand in hand with embossing. I gave everybody a different type of holiday themed stamper. These probably will not do well with the embossing powder. And the reason for that is that this isn't the ultra fine powder that helps get those details, those fine details. I mean, look at this. There's a lot of details in that. Basically, what will happen is the powder will stick and then it'll kind of just melt together. You do want to be careful when you're writing as well, because if you're like me and you close your A's too close, or the hole in the A or the E is too tiny, then you're just going to have a big blob of the embossing. So I got creative with that faux pas, and I have provided you all with a bingo marker, and we're going to see how that does on my sample card. So unscrew the cap. We'll have to push down to get some of it out. Best things for these cards is something water-based, and what we're going to do is I'm going to dab this to get ink on it, enough ink on it to do the stamp. I thought about using a regular marker, but the issue with a regular marker is that it dries too fast. So I know what you're thinking. Okay, a stamp and a bingo marker, great big deal. But wait till you see what I do with it later. So I promise you, it will be really cute when it's paired with something else. Right now, this ornament is super lonely, and we're going to fix that. One of the other options I provided everybody with is a themed holiday stencil. You can trace it with regular markers, or you can use the pattern paper that I've given you. Trace the shape on there and cut it out to glue onto one of your cards. Like, all these cards don't have to be embossed. All of them don't have to be gold or silver embossed. All of them don't have to have the stamp. You guys, there are no rules to this, and I hope you're really loving the freedom that I'm providing in these boxes. A lot of the rest of this project is going to be some cutting and gluing, and I'm pretty sure you guys are pros at that. So what I will do is I will make the rest of my cards using a combination of the methods that I've shown you today, and then I'll show you the finished products and tell you what I did. All right, you guys, I'm going to show you some of the cards that I made, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I did to do that and what tools that I used. So for this cute little guy, I actually used the stamp. I recommend that if you're going to mix the powder embossing with something like I did here with paper, do the embossing first and do it one word at a time. So you definitely, because you definitely need to write quickly and get the powder on there so that it sticks. So one word at a time, and then glue on your extra media. This one was a little more difficult, so what I did was I embossed one card with the embossing folder with our cute little deer here, and I embossed one of the patterned pieces of paper with just the deer and cut the deer out. Now, I would highly recommend using either a really tiny pair of scissors or an X-Acto knife to get the deer cut out of the paper, because that part was really, really difficult. But it does look cute. Again, you can leave it plain. So there's that guy. Another really simple design that I decided to do with no writing on the cover was using a corrugated paper, and then I just cut a simple triangle and square out of a couple pieces of the patterned paper and mix the two to make a really simple Christmas tree. This one is one of my cutest. I used the baker's twine patterned paper and embossed the J and the Y, and kind of embossed a little ornament holder on there, and used the baking twine to make the string, and made a card that said joy, because this was joyous to do. So there are a few of my cards all finished. If I get any more, I'll let you guys know what they look like. I hope you guys have a great time with this project. It's super fun, and there's so many different things that you can do. Again, go into that old drawer of craft supplies that you didn't ever think you'd ever need and scour it to see what you got in there, because you can really use anything to do this. And then, of course, sending these cards to your family and friends and coworkers just makes it all that much better when they're handmade. They'll really, they'll feel that connection with you, knowing that you took the time to make them something really cool. And it's simple. It's just a card, but you know what? A little bit goes a long way. Before I go, I want to bring you this month's tea. It is Apple and Cinnamon by Good Nature. It smells amazing. Next month, wait till you guys see what I got you next month. It's amazing too. So everything's amazing in my world right now. Okay, so we're going to go with it. All right, so with that, I'm going to sign off. And you guys, please post your finished products on the page. Whatever you guys want, I will take all the feedback and criticism that you want to give. I definitely want to make sure that you guys get what you want in these boxes. You get the projects you want. You get the supplies you're after. It's all about you guys at the end of the day. So feel free. And I will see you all soon.